Changing your response, not the Stoic approach. Ever found your blood pressure spiking because someone cut you off in traffic? Yep, me too. Or maybe you've spent days replaying an unfair comment from a colleague, that knot of frustration just tightening in your stomach. We've all been there, haven't we? Caught in that loop, wishing we could just change what they did or what they said. But what if the real power, the actual key to your peace, isn't about changing them at all? What if the biggest change happens when you shift something much, much closer to home? Imagine, just for a moment, a life where the chaos out there, whether it's an annoying coworker, some big global crisis, or just a really, really bad day, doesn't automatically get to hijack your inner peace. Now, this isn't about bottling up your emotions or pretending things don't bug you. Not at all. It's about tapping into some ancient wisdom, a philosophy that's been tested by, well, life itself, Stoicism. And at its very core is a pretty revolutionary idea. You can always control what happens to you or how other people behave, but you always get to control your response. Always. So, where do we start? With the bedrock of Stoicism, what philosophers call the dichotomy of control. It sounds a bit fancy, I know, but it's actually wonderfully simple. Picture this. You divide everything in life into two baskets. In that first basket, you put everything you can actually control. Think about it. Your thoughts, your judgments, the decisions you make, your actions, how you choose to respond to things. This is your turf, your sphere of influence. Then in the second basket, you toss in everything else. What other people think or do. The lovely British weather, the economy, things that have already happened, what might happen in the future. These are all externals. Sure, you might be able to nudge some of them a bit, but you don't have the final say, do you? The Stoics figured out that most of our frustration, anger, and anxiety bubbles up because we're desperately trying to control what's in that second basket. Or we're letting what's in that second basket mess with our first one. Let's make it real. Someone criticizes your work. You can't control their opinion or the fact they said it out loud, trying to force them to take it back or see things your way. That's usually a fast track to more frustration. But here's the good part. You can control how you interpret that criticism. Is it a personal jab, or could there be a tiny nugget of truth in there you could learn from? You get to decide if you lash out, or if you take a breath and reflect. Shifting your focus from their action to your reaction, that's where your power truly lies. It's like tending to your own garden, instead of constantly trying to weed your neighbor's. Alright, so we know where to aim our energy. Die. But how do we actually change those gut reactions, the ones that feel so automatic? This brings us to our second Stoic tool, creating a pause. It's that little gap between something happening and how you respond. It's so important. Most of us, if we're honest, live a bit on autopilot. Stimulus hits and boom, we react. The car horn honks, we might yell something back. An email winds us up and we fire off a heated reply before we even think. Sound familiar? Stoicism teaches us to build in a moment of reflection before we act. Epictetus, a truly incredible Stoic philosopher who was once enslaved, often said that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. That pause, it gives you a chance to look at your initial judgment. When you feel that surge of anger or frustration, just take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I telling myself about this situation? Is it 100% true? And is my first impulse to react going to help me or align with the kind of person I want to be? This isn't about becoming an emotionless robot. It's about becoming more thoughtful. It's the difference between a knee-jerk reaction that often just makes things worse and a considered response that feels right for you. Think back to that driver who cut you off. The immediate reaction is probably anger, right? But if you create that pause, you might choose to think, maybe they're rushing to an emergency, or even just, their bad driving doesn't have to wreck my peace. You respond by keeping your cool, not by adding to the road rage. That little space you create, that's your freedom. I bet we've all had moments where we've reacted and instantly wished for an undo button. If you've a story like that, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Our third powerful Stoic strategy is all about actively reframing how you see things, especially when it comes to other people's actions and those really challenging situations. When someone does something that feels offensive or just plain unfair, Our default setting is often to take it personally, to feel like a victim. But the Stoics suggest we try on a different pair of glasses. What if, instead of seeing that criticism as a direct hit on you, you viewed it simply as someone else's opinion, an external thing, not under your control, and definitely not the ultimate truth about your worth? Or, here's another thought. Could this challenge, this difficult person, actually be a chance to practice a virtue like patience or understanding? Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who was also a dedicated Stoic, often wrote about meeting negativity or provocation with its opposite, kindness. He believed that responding to anger with genuine kindness could not only surprise the other person, but also protect your own inner calm. Now, this doesn't mean you should be a doormat. Stoicism is very clear on taking appropriate action to protect yourself when you need to. But in so many of our daily run-ins, reframing an insult as just misinformation or seeing a frustrating event as a chance to build a bit more resilience can totally change your experience. It's about that light bulb moment when you realize that your anger often hurts you more than the thing you re-angry about. By choosing a more constructive way to look at it or by responding with a virtue like kindness, you stop being a passive target for negativity and start actively shaping your own inner world. And this, my friends, brings us right to the not them part of this whole idea. When you consistently start using these principles, focusing on what you control, pausing to respond thoughtfully, and reframing how you see things, something pretty amazing starts to happen. That desperate need for other people to change, for the world to magically do what you want it to, it just begins to fade. You start to truly get that your peace doesn't depend on someone else's approval or their behavior. Their actions are theirs. Your responses are yours. And this kind of detachment, it isn't coldness, it's an incredible liberation. You stop pouring enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy into trying to fix, control, or understand things that are, at the end of the day, outside your sphere of influence. So, what's the payoff? A much deeper sense of inner peace, even when things outside are stormy. You'll find you're more resilient when life throws you a curveball. You'll be able to handle conflicts with more wisdom and a lot less emotional drama, and become less like a feather tossed about by every gust of wind, and more like a deeply rooted tree. You can sway, sure, but you won't break. That's the kind of freedom Stoicism offers. Look, changing your response instead of constantly trying to change others isn't a quick fix magic pill. It's more like a lifelong practice, a skill you hone. It's about building what the Stoics called an inner citadel, a fortress of calm and reason inside you. By focusing on what you can control, by taking that crucial pause before you react, and by choosing how you interpret the world around you, you reclaim your power and, most importantly, your peace. If this little dive into Stoic wisdom has clicked with you, I'd be thrilled if you gave this video a like and subscribed for more on practical philosophy. We've even got a playlist on building mental resilience you might want to check out. I'm curious what S1 Stoic principle you might try to put into practice this week. Let me know in the comments below.